Welcome back, everybody. How you doing, Brian? This is Brian, the I don't really know about art director. Director, what's your position over at Aquadine? Soft color.
I am the writer director for this project. It's a new group called Soft Colors, and we finished developing our first project, Aquadine, and we hope to release it next week on February 12th. And
Yeah.
I'm the producer, and I've done most of the programming. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats.
Oh yeah. No. Like, and I am super excited to talk to you. I know that was just a murderous intro, but ever since I saw y'all at AWA, I was just blown away. I was like, this is an independent studio with their first ever production, and as sleep deprived as I was, it was like I couldn't forget about it. It was fantastic. I loved the little demo that y'all put out, and even when y'all came over to SonoCon last year, no, 2019, no, nothing happened last year. But when y'all came over to SonoCon, that was fantastic as well, and I was really excited to see y'all again, especially now to talk to y'all.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. So, how does one go ahead and decide we're going to do a visual novel and put it together? How does that happen?
Well, to be honest, I've never really played that many visual novels before. However, I've always been inspired by anime and the stories that they can tell. However, creating anime here is very difficult because we don't really have any studios dedicated to that art form, nor like the funding, especially for like one individual. It's really hard to make something like that happen. But I figure gaming is still really popular here. So I wanted to choose a storytelling medium that kind of introduces both anime and gaming, and I figured visual novels happen to be the perfect medium for that. So I wanted to learn from scratch what it's like to make a visual novel, and this is a result of that work.
Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of stuff really happening nowadays with anime. I mean, maybe you've got So What? I've reincarnated as the spider on Crunchyroll. You've got Castlevania. What was that one? The two girls that are singing, Charlotte, and the other one is a singing anime on
Was it Carol and
Netflix.
Tuesday? The
Carol and
two girls
Tuesday.
singing?
Why did I say Charlotte? Jesus. But yeah, Carol and Tuesday on Netflix, Castlevania on Netflix. Uh, I think they're doing a Ronin JoJo's Bizarre Adventure spinoff on Netflix as well. Like, I mean, but I also don't know where the studios are located. They may be actually in Japan. So you're right. It's kind of weird how Japan has like not because they've like made it illegal, just because no one else is really bothering with it, have this gridlocked monopoly on anime and anime studios, and anyone that like kind of tries, it doesn't really go as good. Like, I think the closest thing that we've had to something that could be easily mistaken as an anime is maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender and Code Lyoko. Like, those are like the only things that strike as like that's white people doing anime kind of like
Yeah, there
everything else
are
is
a few
just
series, yeah, here and there. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably America's best attempt at the anime art form. Um, but yeah, like I don't feel like it's exactly Japan monopolizing anime. I feel like it's just we don't really have a established industry towards that art form. Like normally when we see animation here in America, we think of like cartoons that's geared towards like the children audience. However, in anime,
yeah,
they reach multiple demographics, like so
they
many different
do.
demographics. Like they're very diverse with it. However, I feel like it's just America that's still in the mentality of like what the animation demographic should be, which is children. I assume they believe, but I feel like anime or animation in general is such a beautiful art form. They can tell stories that like no other storytelling medium can through movement and music and voices. Like it's just so beautiful, and it's just a shame that not many other countries explore it as well as anime, or as well as Japan does.
No, they really don't. And like even that concept that you just brought up with animation or anime itself being only for children, that is not at all the case. I remember telling someone that, and like, hey, show your kids Attack on Titan, and then they don't like talking to me now because that was I probably should have actually told them the first 5 minutes of what Attack on Titan was about. But no, like some of the most dark, twisted. You go on to Watch Mojo. Some of their most popular, gruesome horror videos are anime based. Like it's really hard to even get some horror shows and movies that are above it. They'll compare, but they won't really rise above some of the more scarier anime. I wouldn't say shows, but some scenes. There are some scenes in anime that are like they still haunt people. Like I'm not going to go against like The Shining or anything because that's a league of its own, but it's real hard for a lot of people to kind of, it's real hard for them to really compare it. But so besides all of that, what made you decide? Because you said that it was for visual novels, you said that was a really good medium for you. What made you really go for? Because for those who don't know, you had 4 different characters, and then I don't think so you had 4 characters on the story that you could follow, and then each character gives their different aspect through the story. What really made you decide on 4? Is that just where it felt comfortable, or is that all the story you could tell before repeating itself?
Yeah, I feel like 4 is a good number, and to be honest, like a lot of visual novels I've been inspired by, like usually like go maybe 3 or 4 character routes like for their visual novels. Like one particular visual novel I've been inspired by was Clanad. Like they have both anime and also like they were originally a visual novel, and like in that series as well, like they also have 4 major heroines that you can choose from before entering like the major ending. They have side heroines as well, but like there are 4 that are the main ones. And I felt like with the story I wanted to tell, I could flesh out as much as possible with 4 characters. So originally it was actually 2, to be honest. Like,
oh wow,
I wanted to focus on less characters to like really flesh them out as much as possible without any distractions. But as I continued writing, like there were other characters that my friends enjoyed reading about. I'm like, maybe I could write about them, and then it became 3, and then it became 4, and that's where we ended up.
Okay, so how does one start their own production studio, like with Soft Colors, like because you've got a decent following and everything, especially with just one production that hasn't even been put out yet. What does that really take? Like writers, directors, artists, or is that all in-house, or is that something that y'all get third party?
Well, okay, so I'm the writer director. Usually, like I would work on the script, most of the script first before I reach out to my first artist. Like I wrote like maybe like part of the common route or something before I reached out to my first artist, and I just kept writing it while I kept hiring more people, and I would like give them instructions on what to do, like based on my script. It's like, okay, I need like these specific backgrounds or these specific character sprites, and based on what my script says, I can know which expressions I need for each of them. But I outsource most of my team. Like I haven't even met most of my team in person, to be honest. Like a lot of my team is like scattered across the world. Like most of them aren't even from America. But I try to find whoever I feel whose skills suit my vision the best, if that makes sense. Like
yeah, because that's extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like finding someone, because that's one of the more complicated aspects I've heard from someone who is just a writer or is just a more of just a writer, less of just an artist. Because if you're an artist, at least you can get the art down, and the writing you can maybe tinker with yourself. But if an artist doesn't come up to your expectations, there's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, like I actually used to be an artist when I was in college before. I started to focus more on writing, but with those skills, like I was able to get a better eye for what art would suit my vision the best, and it kind of just went from there. Like I just tried to use whatever connections I could. Just went on DeviantArt, went on Lemonsoft, just spending hours or even days just trying to find the right artist I need, and I think I found the no, I found the background artist first based on connections, and it's some beautiful background art. But you also have to consider, will the character artist match this background art well or not? Because like sometimes it could feel out of place if one art kind of stands out too much from the other. They need to be balanced and blend well together. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're setting up your team.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. So where did you get the inspiration for Aquadine?
Mostly through anime. The main two would probably be Clanad and Audio the Animation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Audio series, but it's basically taking place in Neo Venetia, where like most of the town is filled with water and gondolas. And I just really like the setting of the story and the art. And I just want to create, a story with a similar setting, kind of like a slice of life romance drama, and just really emotional endings. Just something that can focus more on like each of the characters' development, and flesh them out as much as possible. Focus on the world building, and just make something wholesome.
Yeah, definitely. I've watched some. I've watched some of those. I haven't really got into them as much. I'm more of a kind of a light shonen isekai kind of guy, but and as trash as that sounds, but yeah, no, I mean, they're staple shows known for like their production value, like wholesomeness, and just you're gonna like the show if you watch it. So I mean, those are not bad shows to target after by any stretch, but. Where did this idea originally come from? Was this something of a kind of an inspiration that like here's the story that I want to build, and then I kind of built more onto it as I got more ideas, or did it kind of like go through its own changes originally? Did it?
Yeah, like I feel like with any major project, there will always be room for changes. As a person with certain tastes of anime, I prefer the ones that can move me and touch me, like something I'll remember for a very long time, and something that has a deep message behind it that I can take away from like long after I finish watching the series or long after I finish playing the game. I'll still remember that series or a story like for many years to come, and I just wanted to have that sort of effect towards my own audience, and I kind of wanted to challenge myself by writing this type of story, because before I was writing this story, I was working on a different story. I was more like shonen isekai kind of story as well, but there is a large audience for this as well. It may not be as big in the Western side of the anime audience, but there's certainly like a lot of people who do enjoy this type of story as well. Specific anime studios really focus on this type of story, and I wanted to capitalize on that with my own project.
Absolutely. Now, is this something that, because again, like your following on Studio Colors it's not shabby by any stretch of the imagination, especially for again a first project studio that hasn't even released yet. So I mean, even with that, it can only get bigger from here. Is this something that you can hopefully see yourself in the future as possibly coming up, at least if not a second chapter, but maybe even an adaptation soon or further along in the future?
Maybe. Like, I'm pretty satisfied with how I ended Aquadine, but there is always room to expand on specific characters, routes and stuff. Like with Clanad, like they also did the same thing with this one character. She's actually my preferred heroine. Her name is Tomoyo, and they made a full visual novel for her specifically, and they used that to continue on Clanad's world, because like she was really popular and really relatable. And there are a bunch of characters that are also relatable as well, and they may not have like the same treatment as like as the main heroine, but there's plenty of room to expand on them as well. So it really depends on how big Aquadine goes, sort of. But yeah, like I'm always open for what I could do next. But yeah, it's possible I could make something else that's related to Aquadine. But otherwise, like I'm pretty satisfied with how Aquadine ended.
Yeah, that's really good. There's kind of an issue nowadays, especially And I always kind of saw myself as far as anime was always kind of known for it, but it wasn't so where they would end the anime series, but the manga would keep going because they view the anime as more as a commercial for the manga. So if you like the anime, you can go buy the manga, and that's where the money is. But for a lot of shows, even now, that's kind of waning away to where they're kind of stretching it out as far as they can, and kind of it gets a little lackluster in spots.
Yeah.
But especially with like there are some K-dramas now that are like they're one season, stories here, ends here, done. You're not getting OVAs, you're not getting a second season, you're not getting a teaser movie. You're done. It's one season, on to the next project. So I can really respect somebody who's like, here's my story, here's the beginning, here's the ending. I like it where it's at, and let's end it there.
Yeah, I think it's better that way, to be honest, because like if you drag it out, like, you know, it will show. Because like for each story, there's a specific way how the writer intended to, you know, begin it and end it. And like I know it's different for like manga specifically, like for shonen manga that drag out like very long periods of time, because the anime wants to make as much money as possible off of it. So that's why they are willing to add filler episodes, filler arcs to really make more content for the fan base, and just you know, keep them around, and you know, let the manga take more time to make more chapters and stuff. But you know, it's actually changed as of late, because now they're willing to split it into different seasons, so that way they don't have to make filler. They can just, you know, take breaks. They can make one season, you know, stop, wait for a chapter to, well, wait for the manga to catch up, then make another season. But before, like I think, like in the last decade or so, that's when you see a lot more filler arcs and filler episodes. And I think the quality control has become much better since then.
Oh yeah, no, because I can remember where they're like, they had to stop Naruto for like a year or two because the manga was like a couple of chapters behind. I'm like, wait, so, and I was always confused because I was a kid and I didn't really understand how that happened. And I was again explained that the manga was what originally came first. So I was sitting here like, so is he just going to rewrite what the anime has already done, or is he going to, has that already been wrote out and they just haven't had time to draw it? I was really confused on that, because if it was manga came first and the anime is the commercial, you would expect the manga to be all the way up here. And it's kind of weird how they're doing that with Attack on, how a lot of people have actually gotten, and I don't think it's the anime because they've done really good with the anime, how they've gotten onto the manga, or the manga people have gotten onto the people who are the releasing schedule with the publisher, because they're being rushed so quickly so that the manga and the anime end at the exact same time.
I was not aware of that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's really weird. So, and even sometimes, like with Full Metal Alchemist, you have two completely different storylines as far as anime and manga go. So it is kind of difficult, and especially with even some American movies. Like if you look at the book Under the Dome by Stephen King, and then you go to the CBS television show Under the Dome, as a fan of the book, they ruin it in like the first episode. They ruin everything. Like they split off two of the main protagonist assistants and just absolutely decimate the entire plot. But as fans, do you as a personal opinion, do you believe that it's better for us to have those differentiating storylines as far as TV show and book adaptations go, or if like what do you think is best as far?
I prefer it to be consistent, like both the original material and the adaptation both remain consistent, because I feel like if the adaptation like goes astray from what the original already did, like they could potentially just, you know, ruin the IP. They may as well just make their own IP. What's the point of like doing something completely different than what the author intended to do? Like there's no point in like sticking the same name like under a different medium just for the sake of like. I don't understand sometimes like why they would do that. Like, you know, some Netflix adaptations, like, okay, like I never watched this one, but the Death Note live action, like they changed so much. Like why would they do that? Just adapt Death Note the way it is, because like Death Note is a masterpiece, but they just butchered the crap out of it. Like changed so many things. Like it's not even the same character, not even the same setting. Like sometimes it just baffles me how some adaptations just missed the mark completely. So I feel like it's best to respect the creator as much as possible when adapting anything.
Yeah, and that's even if they don't ruin the casting. Like, I know especially a lot of anime fans were extremely upset about how, like, it was set in New Jersey or Chicago. Like, it wasn't in Japan, and it was in America. And then they kind of go, and when they actually had the ability, and the casting of the different, L being a black guy, and Killa being a white teen with a cop dad. I mean, that, at least they got that right. But and even with like when they did the Full Metal Alchemist adaptation, they could have literally done the same thing. They're in like a Germany-esque country. You are actually kind of responsible to cast white people, and they cast an Asian cast, which again just, and then they slapped that $20 blonde wig on him, and do you think they're ever going to learn their lesson, or is this just something they're going to? Are they just going to keep making the mistakes at the behest of whatever corporate director walks in? It's like, I think it'd be a great idea if we did this, and then now he has his name on the tag.
I just don't understand. Like, to be honest, like sometimes, like I just feel it's best for anime to just remain anime, because there are unique things that like anime can do as a storytelling medium that others can't. Like the way you can portray like the visuals, like in each of the stories, you may not be able to recreate that same level of success in live adaptation. So I don't have any experience as a director who's done something for live action, so I don't have much insight here. But it just baffles me how someone can just screw up that hard and come up with, terrible adaptations.
Yeah, no, like even with like Attack on Titan, it's like you can't make Attack on Titan a real movie. Like you can't, like that would have to be Avengers level, like CGI to give it any kind of justice. Like you can't, you absolutely can't do that.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely does require like a large amount of budget and attention. Like, the West has shown that they can make really like flashy movies, like they have with, like you said, the Marvel movies. If they could, use that same level of attention for like the anime adaptations, like maybe. But I feel like there's just not enough respect for the anime stories. That's why they might not care as much, and it's really a shame, because like they have like some very powerful stories, like very popular stories, but they may not see the light of day as a live adaptation.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell us, pretty much give us a spoiler-free view of Aquadine. I'm sure, and this is exactly what you're here for. You're not here to talk shop about anime. You're here to promote your product. So tell us about Aquadine and pretty much how it came to be, the storyline around it, and how it got where it is now.
Okay. Yeah, so the main character, his name is Robin. He's actually a former gondolier. Like in Aquadine, it's a town filled with water, and like the main source of income for his family is being a gondolier who gives tours to like all the tourists from the several different towns. However, like his mom was like probably like one of the most famous gondoliers of that town, but in comparison, he doesn't really like compare much to his mom. So people notice that, and they're bound to make judgments, because I'm sure like if your own family member was like really famous for something, and people will look at you as like, okay, like why aren't you like that? So that's what happened to him, and unfortunately, his mom is in a weird. She's in an unfortunate hospital position, because she's got this mysterious disease that no one knows what it is. She's lost her vision, and she can barely stand and has trouble breathing, and all the doctors don't know what's wrong with her. But he decides to take on an alias as a CL, where he pretends to act more like his mom, and people actually like that. Like they don't know it's him, but they wanted someone who's similar to Tori. Like Tori's like his mom, someone who could give like similar tours like the way she used to do it. So by acting like a completely different person and under a different identity and everything, he's able to bring more attention to the gondola company again and make money in order to pay for those hospital bills. However, like he's not able to do this like alone, but he still tries his best to. But as he keeps working, he meets other friends who try to help him out, but they also have their own secrets, and you learn more about like the world of Aquadine and where they all come in. So that's pretty much like the start of the story, and like you kind of like meet the characters and like learn more about like personalities and like hints towards their own routes and their overarching story and how it all comes together in the end.
Okay. So are these routes, you said there's 4 character routes. Now, is this something that you have to finish? You have to start one route and then finish it, or are you able to skip around routes to like so does on the routes, does it start at the beginning of the story and then end at the story and then you have to start at the back of the beginning, or does it interweave to where every character is around at the same timeline, or is this something you could jump around?
Okay, so first when the story begins, you have the common route. So this is basically like the general storyline of where you don't really have to like make the choice of which route you want to go to yet. So you kind of just go through like the introduction of the world and the characters and kind of get used to them a bit and just kind of see them enjoy themselves and like and just have fun and kind of just explore the world a bit more. But once you hit a certain point in the story, that's when you'll see the 4 character routes. And from there, like, you can choose any of the character routes you want. You can read them in any order. You can save wherever you want. You can go back to the character select screen. Okay, so once you clear the common routes, you'll unlock a character select screen. So you can always go back there and choose a different route, even if you haven't finished one route yet. So as long as you read and complete one route, you'll unlock this marker next to the character's profile, where it'll show, hey, you've completed this route. So feel free to like try the other routes, or if you want to like save your progress one route, you can read a different one, finish that one first, you'll unlock that one, and then move on to a different one. But as long as you clear all 4, you'll unlock like the markers for all 4 of them and one final story that wraps everything together.
Fantastic. So now, is this a set in stone timeline kind of thing, or is it a more of a choose your own adventure type game?
It's more of a kinetic visual novel. Basically, you don't make branches. You don't make choices to like enter like specific endings. It's more like you just read it, and then you hit the 4 character routes, and you can read whichever one. So you don't make that many choices, but you go through a character select screen.
Okay. Because there's a lot of those that are actually getting really popular. I know they have a wildlife survival. I know they tried something with Bear Grylls. Of course, you've got Black Mirror Bandersnatch. And I think they have a newer wildlife survival, kind of like there's a lion, you get under the car, go up a tree, kind of. So is that something that's really popular in the visual novel sphere, or is it all more of a just kinetic timeline with some of the outliers being, yeah, you can choose your own adventure?
It's actually the opposite. I think most visual novels are the ones where you can choose, make many choices, and that'll determine how the story ends up. You'll have good endings, bad endings, neutral endings, just so many different endings, so many different possibilities of how the story can play out. Mine is actually the weird one here, because I want a specific vision for this visual novel. It's my take on the medium. It's not your ordinary type of visual novel where you'll make several choices to get to your ending. Instead, I wanted to make it feel like you're watching anime, because anime was the main inspiration behind my project. So that's why like all the characters, they're all drawn in 3/4 perspective instead of facing directly to you. And they're also written in 3rd-person perspective instead of written in 1st person. Most visual novels, they write in 1st person because they want the players to immerse themselves as main characters. That way you can kind of just like have your own monologue, make your choices like as if they were your own choices, and kind of just choose your own adventure. But for mine, it's more like I want to set in stone like my own story and just make sure that it's as consistent as possible to make sure that I deliver the characters' personalities, their stories, like their backstory, like their goals, everything as thoroughly as possible, and have like as much flexibility to do so. So kinetic novels aren't as common, I feel, as standard visual novels, but it's just how I wanted to do it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so you're kind of taking the road, kind of the road less traveled there. So, how does one go to producing their own visual novel? Like, what's is there like a special program? Like, because I know you said you've got backgrounds, and then you can kind of drag the characters that you want onto it. Then you got the talk box at the bottom. Is there a special program that you use, or is there a format like Premiere or Final Cut Pro that makes you able to do that?
The software I use is RenPy, RENPY. It's free to use, free for commercial use, free to download, everything. Like there are plenty of tutorials for that. And for someone like me who's had very little experience with programming, like it turned out to be pretty comfortable to kind of get to learn it. And it's been a blast to like try to figure out how to do things and try like to experiment what works, what doesn't. And yeah, this is software I've used for the past few years now, and it's really helped, like really allowed me to execute the story I envisioned. And yeah, like there are plenty of other visual novel developers who also use RenPy, and they've kept updating that software like over the years, and it's been great.
Okay, so is there any like watermark? Sorry about
Sorry, was
that.
that?
So, are there any? Is there any kind of like watermarks or anything on that program that would like, cause like when you like make memes and it said made by Mematic at the bottom? Is there anything, since it's a free program? Is there anything that would like kind of break the veil of the visual novel that the company itself puts in there for like advertisement or something?
No, not to my knowledge.
Wow. So it's a completely free program for making visual novels, and they don't have any kind of watermarked advertisement indicating that it's their program.
Nope.
That's fantastic. Wow. So, and I'll be sure to go ahead and link that in the description for anyone who might be interested in the comment section. But yeah, again, like, because whenever I find video editing software or anything that's like free, there's always like, I remember there was this one that it covered up like this much of the banner. So talking and it'd be this giant banner. It's like brought to you by blah 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 editing company, and I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for RenPy. Like that software has allowed me to create the story I wanted, and like I feel like if it weren't for that software, I'm not sure if I'd still make a visual novel. To be honest, like it's I am so grateful that the creator put that software out there for a lot of people who want to create visual novels, and it's been great to use and learn.
Yeah, so is that an open sourced visual novel product, or is there a company that does that, and they're just like they get their money somehow?
I don't think it's a company.
So it is an open sourced visual novel program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are the best. I love that. Like Audacity. I don't really know if there's really an in-depth video editing program that I've found, at least. But I love when like people, or GitHub. I love when people like make a thing, take donations. Hell, even Wikipedia at one point in time was solely based off donations. I actually think they still are to an extent. But yeah, so it is fantastic because again, if there weren't things like that, if there was these gatekeepers like with Final Cut Pro, where at least that's $200, but you have to buy an Apple product, which is $1,000, or if you need to get Adobe Premiere, where it's like a couple of $100 a year. I think it's $300 a year for the licensing agreement. Hey, sorry about that. My internet was getting a little slow. I had to recut
Oh,
back.
see it.
But absolutely. So, yeah. So, so you said you had a lot of people that were outsourced third-party users for your. So, how many people are on your main team? Is it just you, or do you have a couple of other people on your team with you?
Main team, as in like just people and like in person, or are you talking about like artists and composers and stuff like that?
Yeah, artists, composers, anybody like that.
Well, I mean, like I outsourced all of them. I've
Hey,
had like
nothing wrong with that.
oh yeah. I've had a few artists, like two background artists, like I think about maybe three character artists, like one or two composers. But it's mostly me who's doing all the directing. Yeah, like I actually don't know anyone else on my team in person.
Okay, so how did you find them? Like you said, you went on DeviantArt and like the composers. I'm interested with that as though because I've seen a lot of different. I guess you'd call them producers on that and stuff on like TikTok. So where did you find your composers? Is there like a DeviantArt for composers I'm not aware of?
Well, actually, like my friend, he told me like, okay, so this is before I made a visual novel, like long before. I think this is back when I was still in college. Like one of my friends told me that like one of his friends was making a visual novel, and I was like, oh really? Like because at that time I never really knew that there were like some other Westerners trying to make their own visual novels. So he showed me like what they were making, and apparently that they were a studio. They were called Silent Studios, and they focused more on like making music and stuff. But they tried to make their own visual novel, and they released it some time ago. But I managed to get in contact with them, see if they could, produce my own music for my game, like when I started. And they offer a pretty good deal for each song, and it was very affordable for me, and that's what really appealed to me. And I got to know their composer, and I chat with him like quite often, just to get a feel for like each song that he updates and stuff. And that's how I got to know my composer. And for like other composers, like the one for the opening and ending song, like I chose to go with a different composer for that. I was actually looking through like visual novel Kickstarters, like a bunch of visual novel developers, like just like other indie devs. They kind of have their own Kickstarters sometimes for crowdfunding because developing a game is so expensive. But a lot of times, like they also credit like their composers and artists and stuff, and I kind of got to know,
Okay.
hey, like this visual novel developer, they chose to make an opening theme. This is before I made an opening theme. I'm like, but I really want an opening theme, but I know like the right composer and the right like video editor and all that. But I was just going through Kickstarter, and I found one. I'm like, hey, this sounds pretty good. Let me reach out to this composer and kind of see what the rates are and how I could work with them and such. And that's how I got to know my second composer. And it kind of just went from there. I used to spend a lot of time just browsing through like what the new releases were for Steam or Kickstarter, just to see what other people were doing and just get an idea of what my competition is, what the visual novel scene is for the English side, and just kind of get to know the community. And that's when I started like making my own Twitter and expanding from there.
Okay, yeah. So so if you don't mind telling, how difficult, especially on the financial side, is it to produce and start your own not only studio but the visual novel? Only if you feel comfortable with
Oh
doing
yeah,
so.
it's fine, yeah. For all of Aquadine's development, like the entirety, I spent around 17,000 for all of it. Yeah, I think I managed to find good deals because a lot of the people I work with, they're also like new composers, new artists. So like a lot of times, like the prices will be like much more affordable compared to like the more professional one, the more like renowned composers. So I try to like work with other people who are also pretty new, like to their own respective fields, and that's how I managed to like fund the project affordably. But I also work like a full day job, so I try to like work
Yeah.
on my visual novel like on the side whenever I can. So I try to save up as much money as possible. Um, before I even hired my first artist, just to make sure I would have enough funds for the project as well as my cost of living.
Yes, I mean, hell, 17K is not bad. Like I know some people when they do comic books and stuff, that's about 10K. So
Yeah.
especially something as long as it takes to get through Aquadine. I know you told me it takes 2 or 3 hours per route, or 3 or 4 hours per route. So something it could essentially be a 20-hour video game. 17K is not bad whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate because like for visual novels, they're not really too heavy in terms of programming. So like I don't have to like worry about hiring a programmer for the most part, especially for this type of genre. It's a romance, slice of life, comedy. So I don't have to like put in like a lot of special effects or anything. I could try like do a lot of that myself because it's more character driven and dialogue based. So because I could like do more work on my own, like I can try to program as much as possible on my own. Same with the writing. Yeah, like I wrote the whole story, so I don't have to worry about hiring a writer or whatever. So I managed to like cover as much cost as possible. But like every now and then, like I would still need some help in terms of like the technical side of things because I completely suck when it comes to like technical like aspects of anything. So I'm really grateful that I found like help like through Twitter, and also like my UI artist is great at programming. So I have to ask her a lot of questions to try to like get through like this project.
Okay. So, and you also live in the Atlanta area in Georgia. Is being near such a kind of a metropolitan area, did that also help with the development? Did you reach out or have any friends in that space that were able to assist you, or was this all like an internet kind of like you found everybody strictly off the internet?
Mostly just off the internet. However, where the local side of things kind of helped out was maybe with the voice actors, actually. Well, most of the voice actors, like, I also hired, like, through the internet, but sometimes I would find, like, 1 or 2 voice actors who would meet me, like, from conventions. Like, this one particular voice actor, his name is Jordan Harrelson. I met him, I believe, at MomoCon, and I actually got him to voice, like, a few of my characters. So every now and then I might meet some useful connections through conventions, just like how I met you, and like some other people. I'm really grateful. But yeah, most of the development was through the internet.
So what has Jordan been in? Because like I mean, I'm sure he's not like Kirito or Meliodas, but like because some of the voice actors, they're either like the small grade B tier, but MomoCon's actually kind of a pretty big convention. Well, it's a decently sized convention, nothing compared to AWA or Dragon Con. But what all has he been in?
To be honest, I'm not very familiar because I don't. I've had the time to really look at a lot of people's portfolios. I actually met him like when I was like promoting at the convention, like when I had my own booth, and I believe he was just passing by. So I'm like, he was actually the one who reached out to me. It was like,
oh, okay.
Hey, okay. You want a voice actor or whatever? Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Like, just send me your portfolio and I'm sorry, just send me your demo reel or something. I'll check it out. And I gave him like 3 different roles or something for like some side characters. But I'm pretty satisfied with the performance he and the rest of the voice actors have done.
Yeah, no, the voice acting in Aquadine is actually really good. Again, like I cannot stress how impressed I really was. Like the coloring was really crisp. There was a lot of shadowing. The backgrounds even had some motion in some of them. Like, I mean, it was a really very well put together visual novel. And this is coming from someone who really doesn't do visual novels. Like I've looked at Clandine a bit but not really more than that. So I was actually very impressed. And even now, just knowing it comes from a more or less one-person team, again, extremely impressed with your work.
Thank you very much. But yeah,
so,
I really just wanted the visual novel to feel more like an anime, so the experience would be more recognizable, more familiar to like the Western audience. Because visual novels in general are still very niche. So many people still don't know about them. Like when I'm promoting at conventions, like some people are still like, what is this? What is a visual novel? Or is this like Doki Doki Literature Club? I'm like, no, or they'll be like,
Dude, that
oh,
was
yeah, or they'll be like, oh, is this 18 plus? I'm like, no, because like unfortunately, visual novels they do have a stigma that like they may be like 18 plus,
yeah.
arrow and stuff, and unfortunately, those are things I have to deal with. Like even though mine is like all ages, wholesome, like drama story, like the medium is tied to those stigma, and like it's unfortunate, but like there are some powerful stories that can be told through this medium. It's just a lot of people here aren't familiar with it, and that's unfortunate because there's some
Yeah.
great stories out there.
Absolutely, especially with Doki Doki Literature Club. I almost forgot about that for a second. That was a lot. Like that game had like you could go into the BIOS of the game and mess around with the code, rename folders, and then it would simulate in game with new storylines, and like it was wild. And it really, actually, that was one of my that was actually one of the really, like, kind of the more explosive introductions for visual novels type games for a lot of people, because you had, that was the more the choose your own adventure type, to my understanding. But a lot of people like game theory, a lot of different let's play people before let's play got really big. Like they really like ran with Doki Doki. Like it was a huge game to even look at.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
so do you feel that some of those games, like how you said, where they kind of explode on the scene to where they're not as, they kind of like go above and beyond as far as like the Easter eggs and the nuances and the twist, do you think they kind of like overhype or kind of raise the bar above what is to be normally expected of a visual novel? Because a lot of times when you get like a song or a medium of any kind, and these people, like, for whatever reason, they just hit the bell really hard, and then people will go over to more shows and other mediums to look at other stuff. It's like, hey, I really like this, so I'm going to love the other stuff. And then they're kind of disappointed, not because they're a disappointing story, but because it's not what that was. So do you think that's a problem, especially with visual novels being such a new, not a newer, but a less explored medium?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel that people aren't familiar enough with the medium. Like, the visual novels have a lot of potential, though. Like, there's audio, there's music, voices, the way the character sprites work and everything. Like, it's just a very unique medium. Like, it's kind of like in the middle between like gaming, animation, book. Like, it takes like elements of each of these different storytelling mediums and just becomes like one thing. I'm still kind of surprised that like not a lot of people are familiar with this storytelling medium because it's so unique. Like there's just so much potential behind it. Like you can do so many things with the visual novel medium. Like there's so many different ways to tell the story. And if you want choices, you can make a bunch of choices or have no choices at all. Like even games like Ace Attorney is also considered a visual novel, but like it's more familiar to the Western audience because it introduced more puzzle-like mechanics and whatnot. It's like it's not exactly the traditional type of visual novel, which is probably why it's more popular among the Western gamers because it's more familiar to them. But visual novels, like it's focused more on storytelling, on reading, and I feel like as an entertainment, like I feel like more people gravitate towards like gaming than they do towards like reading before entertainment. So I don't know. It's just a medium that's not really explored enough, but you can just do so much with it.
Absolutely. Well, I think one of its issues is there's not an app for it. Like, especially with light novels and manga, like a lot of those were kind of less popular. A little less so when you were able to Amazon it, but especially when like Bookwalker came out, then really people really started getting into to manga and light novels. So I think all it needs is just I think it just needs an app. I just think it needs an app.
Yeah, maybe an app for specifically visual novels, and you can play whichever visual novel you want on that app. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, on your phone. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I
absolutely.
mean, yeah, like a bunch of visual novels, they do have app versions of them. You could play like app version of like some visual novels. Like actually, Aquadine. Like if you go to the itch.io page for Aquadine, you can download the Android version of the demo there and play it on your phone. It's just like there's no like universal app for visual novels specifically. Like you'll
Yep.
probably be able to find like full versions of like visual novels here and there on phone if you really look for them. But some people probably don't know the title or the. But it just goes back to people just not knowing what visual novel is to begin with. Like maybe if visual novels as a whole became more popular, then people will probably dig more like through the App Store or whatever. But I've noticed like from my pages like downloads, like if I go to itch.io, I can like actually check the number of downloads for each PC, Mac, and Android, and it seems like PC and Android they have like about equal amounts of download. Like yeah, you do have a point. Like a lot of people would probably prefer to read the visual novels on app as well. So
Yeah.
like yeah, just seeing those numbers pretty much proves that like plenty of people would love to read it on the go.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with the Android and PC, like you said, you got pretty much equal off of the page. But the editing app that you said you used, I mean, if they had their own like, hey, if you liked editing on this app, go ahead and throw us the let us go ahead and advertise it for you, and whatever you charge, we'll take a little cut from it, and you can go ahead and post it on that, and then people can get recommendations based off of like tags and stuff of other visual novels they read. I'm honestly kind of surprised that that hasn't really happened.
Hmm. Yeah, like I mean, I feel like it'll just take some time before visual novels as a
Yeah.
whole becomes more recognized. Like I think that's the biggest problem. Like just not enough people like know about it in general. That's why there's not like a big industry or anything going for it. Like I feel like it'll take some more time, just like anime did. Because I think like some time ago like even anime wasn't that popular, but now it's pretty popular.
Oh yeah,
So I
it's
think
big.
visual novels will probably follow suit.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Like even with anime, like you used to have to watch 4 or 5 different segments of the same episode on YouTube, and
Yeah.
that's how you got it. Or you like LimeWire or something.
Hmm.
Like it was a mess.
Yeah, but now there are dedicated like legal sites to watch it, like Crunchyroll, Funimation, Netflix. A
Yep.
lot more like streaming sites are making like anime categories. Like you could just like look up anime and just like find a bunch of like anime on there. Like like Steam's actually getting kind of better with that too, because like now like you can look up visual novels on Steam and find a bunch of different visual novels. Before there wasn't always a visual novel category, I believe. Uh, and yeah, like now people can just put their visual novels on there and search visual novels and find them there. So yeah, I think the medium is slowly getting there, but it'll take some more time, I think.
Absolutely. So, what's next for Studio Colors? Any other ideas that you got popping around?
Yeah, actually, I've been working on a script for my next project. I'm thinking about exploring webcomics next.
Web
Uh,
comics. Okay.
yeah, I think the main motivating factor behind this was the deal Crunchyroll made with Webtoon, and how they started
Yeah,
to
got a
adapt
high
more.
school.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. There's Tower
Oh
of
yeah.
God, God of High School, Noblesse. Like they're starting to adapt more webcomic, and I see this as an opportunity. I'm like, hey, like maybe I can find more of a bigger audience, like through this different medium, and kind of just explore it some more and just take the experience I've had as a writer and translate that to the webcomic medium.
Absolutely. I mean, like again, web comics, visual novels, like there are so many different mediums, especially now with people being locked up in their houses with quarantine.
Hmm.
Like it's going to be very difficult for anything internet based to fail.
Hmm.
Like I know like Quibbly said that they failed, like that it was a video streaming company put like $10 billion into coming up with a video streaming company, and they blame the pandemic. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that doesn't fly. You can't blame the
Yeah.
pandemic for something that causes people to stay in their house and watch Netflix all day.
But yeah, I just wanted an opportunity to expand more with my connections and my audience, because I feel like webcomics in general are just a lot more popular than visual novels are as a medium. Because a lot of people, they can just like download a webtoon and just read whichever webcomic they want, and they'll have like hundreds and thousands, like millions of subscribers, reading their comics, and they're really, really popular. So tons of people can just like read webcomic on the fly, but a lot of people won't know what visual novel is. And like, as someone who's lived in America, you can't like have the same opportunities when it comes to getting anime adaptations, because usually that's kind of exclusive to stuff like manga or visual novels that are made from Japanese developers.
Yeah.
But for America, you don't really have that chance. However,
it definitely, yeah.
However, I see like the bridge between Webtoon and Crunchyroll to be the one opportunity to like, really like get that dream, of seeing your work on the big screen one day getting adapted, your characters moving and millions of people watching it. Like, it's much harder to achieve that when you're from the West.
Yeah. I mean, especially like, and that's definitely true for the past, and maybe even more so, maybe even a little bit less so, but still prevalent now. But I mean, especially with God of High School, they're gonna be like, hey, look, it's not that it's anime, it's a really good animated show. So I think that bridge is going to fall away completely, and it's going to be open to almost everybody. I don't think it's going to take long. Especially with Netflix trying to put out a like feature length movie every week in 2021. I mean, they're going to raise their price to like $18 a month sooner or later. So you at that point, as a company where you're publishing stuff, you can't hang on to money like Apple can for R&D. Like, there's not much R&D you can do with Netflix. Yeah. There's some, but you can't put $17 billion on the side. So if you've got $17 billion, you just got to start making shows. Yeah. So sooner or later, they just got to be like, if you're above this criteria, we'll make your show for like $10,000, $20,000. Like, because even some stand-up comedians have stand-up specials, and the comedians themselves, they're good, but they're not Burt Kreischer, Joe Rogan, Tom Papa. They're not good, but they still get their Netflix specials. So I think they're like, if you've got this many fans, you've got your quality is at this line, and you've got this amount of money, we'll go ahead and make you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, like there are companies that are always trying to find something to make or adapt, and like sooner or later they'll reach like this pool of talented people who've created these excellent projects that just haven't been explored enough yet, because it just goes back to visual novels being so niche, like nobody knows about it yet. They could tell like really excellent stories, and like once like people on this side of the world like realize that, they can start like expanding on that, maybe make some adaptations, and it'll benefit both parties. And we'll just have to see. But yeah, that's pretty much why I'm trying to explore like the webcomics, so I can try to get myself out there, and just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hey, it has been fantastic talking to you, man. I really enjoyed it. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you at, where they can find Aquadine. I'll be sure to throw a link to the Steam page and your website in the description below. But go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you got it.
But yeah, okay. So my Twitter is softcolorsvn, and my Instagram is Studio Softcolors. And if you just look up Steam Aquadine on Google, then you'll find the Steam page, and you'll find links to the Twitter and the YouTube there, and they'll have links to like all my social media. So yeah, feel free to follow me. And Facebook is Aquadine Memories. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Absolutely, dude. Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and watching the episode. You be sure to subscribe to my channel as well as all of his channels, and we will see you next time.